Welcome to the first of hopefully many episodes of a brand new series, Subspecies 101. My name is Ryan Kelly and today I'm going to be talking about one of Iceborne's brand new subspecies, Coral Pukei-Pukei, a watery cousin of Pukei-Pukei. Before we get into this episode of Subspecies 101, I should just say that I made a video called The Art of Subspecies in Monster Hunter, where I go into detail as to why I personally like subspecies and why I believe they should get more credit than they do currently. Now, you don't have to watch that video to enjoy this series, just know that I'll be discussing ideas and principles from that video while I analyze each subspecies. And finally, I'll be ranking each subspecies from 1, avoid the fight, to 10, pursue the fight. With that being said, let's talk about the Coral Pukei-Pukei. As I mentioned earlier in this video, Coral Pukei-Pukei was first introduced in the ultimate expansion of Monster Hunter World, being Iceborne. Unlike its cousin the Pukei-Pukei, Coral Pukei-Pukei can only be fought in Master Rank and can only be found in the Coral Highlands instead of only being found in the Ancient Forest. Now, the most obvious thing that makes Coral Pukei-Pukei unique from the original is the fact that it uses the water element instead of poison, which makes sense when you think about its name. Speaking of something that makes sense when you think about it is the fact that it's weak to the ice and poison elements. So I guess this answers the question of who would win a fight between Pukei-Pukei and Coral Pukei-Pukei. And finally, something you might not know about Coral Pukei-Pukei, which I think is pretty cool, is the fact that it's the first bird wyvern to use the water element. And yes, this includes spin-offs, the Frontier series, and online. So, Coral Pukei-Pukei is a more special monster than you might think it is. If you fought Coral Pukei-Pukei, then you know just how different this subspecies is from the original. In fact, that's the reason why I chose Coral Pukei-Pukei for the first episode of Subspecies 101. For starters, its design is completely different from the original. Instead of being primarily green, Coral Pukei-Pukei is a much more vibrant monster with a yellow and pink coloration, which I think perfectly suits it. However, this isn't even the biggest difference between the two monsters. That would be the fact that Coral Pukei-Pukei is a much more aggressive monster with way more methods of attacking hunters. Pukei-Pukei would primarily use raw attacks with a few basic poison ones, mainly by spitting globs of poison at hunters, and occasionally using its tail. This is not the case for Coral Pukei-Pukei. It mainly uses water-based attacks and is able to utilize both its mouth and tail. Instead of mostly using globs to attack hunters, Coral Pukei-Pukei uses strong streams of water with much more range. It has a plethora of ways to use these water beams. It is able to shoot water out of its mouth in a straight line, but sometimes it will split the beam in two with its tongue, covering double the area it would have with a single beam. It also gets the ability to shoot a straight beam of water out of its tail, and this definitely is a really powerful attack. In fact, one of my favorite attacks happens to be its signature attack where it flies in the air and spins its tail like a madman and covers a huge area of the arena. There are also a few other instances where it uses water, but those are definitely the most significant changes with Coral Pukei-Pukei. As you can see, Coral Pukei-Pukei is significantly different from Pukei-Pukei. So, what do I think about Coral Pukei-Pukei? If you know me at all, then you know that I'm a huge fan of Pukei-Pukei's fight, despite the fact that it's kind of a pushover. So when I heard that Capcom was making a new Pukei-Pukei subspecies, I was super excited, but I didn't think it could be any better than an already amazing monster. Well, Coral Pukei-Pukei proved me wrong. This monster is a huge improvement compared to the original. Its moveset is much more complex with a variety of different moves ranging from elemental attacks to brute ones. It's also a stronger monster than Pukei-Pukei is and a little bit more of a threat. I really like its appearance with both its literal design and the look of its attacks, especially its signature attack where it spins its tail in the air. I also like how much polish the Coral Pukei-Pukei has, especially when compared to some of the other subspecies introduced in Iceborne. The fact that Coral Pukei-Pukei has to put his head in the ground to drink water in order to fill his tail is a really subtle design choice that gives this monster a lot of polish, and I freaking love this animation, especially since it leaves it wide open to be punished. Also, whenever you cut its tail off, it is no longer able to use any water attacks from it, which limits its moveset quite a bit, which is something that is present with other monsters in the series, but I haven't seen a whole lot of monsters be so heavily affected by cutting or breaking apart other than Barioth and Glavenus. And the final thing that I really like with Coral Pukei-Pukei is the fact that it actually makes great use of the water element, unlike so many monsters, especially in Iceborne. Now, Water Blight is already a pretty ineffective element when compared to other elements in Monster Hunter, but the fast-paced fight and the Water Blight draining your stamina more makes this element way more effective than it is against other monsters. And you're way more likely to get afflicted with Water Blight since it has so many strong water-based attacks, unlike so many other Water Blight monsters like Barioth and Plesioth. So, with that in mind, I'd give Coral Pukei-Pukei a 10 out of 10. Pursue the fight! It's a really great subspecies that actually changes drastically from the original one and feels like a completely new monster. Not only that, it also takes great advantage of the water element. Overall, Coral Pukei-Pukei is an amazing subspecies that I hope returns in future Monster Hunter games. Since Coral Pukei-Pukei is the first monster that I reviewed on Subspecies 101, it will obviously be ranked the best subspecies reviewed so far, and will be ranked the best subspecies in Iceborne. Obviously, this list will be changing quite a bit throughout the series as I review more subspecies. But for now, Coral Pukei-Pukei sits as my favorite subspecies in Iceborne, and my favorite subspecies in all of Monster Hunter. So, what are your opinions about the Coral Pukei-Pukei? Do you think it deserves a higher or lower ranking? Let me know in the comments below if you enjoyed this video or not. Also, make sure to click the like button if you liked this episode and hit that subscribe button if you're interested in seeing more content like this from this channel. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. My name is Ryan Kelly and I hope to see you in the next episode of Subspecies 101.